Wanna talk? So let's talk. Here. Talk. You wanna talk? You gotta talk, you need to talk. News talk.
I talk, you talk to Solomon. I talk, you talk to Solomon. Yeah, let's talk to Solomon. Talk to Solomon.
You gotta talk, you wanna talk.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Talk to Solomon. My name is Stan Solomon. I'm the host.
And I'm the co-host, Chief Steve.
And our additional co-host is my friend Brent Johnson. Brent, tell folks quickly how they get a hold of you.
Sure enough, you can get a hold of me through www.freedomradio.us, freedomradio.us. From there, you get a tremendous amount of information on how to claim your sovereign, independent rights, your God-given rights. You can also get access from there to my weekly show, the Global Freedom Report, which airs on Saturdays from 5 to 8 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. And you can also give a call if you want, anywhere in the U.S. and Canada, toll-free, 888-385-3733, 888-385-FREE, and I'd love to hear from you.
All right, our guest is my friend Gary Kreep, the attorney extraordinaire. And Gary, how are you tonight?
I'm doing fine. Thank you very much for having me on your show again.
It's always our pleasure. We learn so much. The name of your organization is?
United States Justice Foundation.
USJF.net. USJF.net. Well, I don't need to tell you, we've got a few things happening out there. We had the decision on Obama could care less. We had a decision on several other, earth-shaking items. We've had a Supreme Court that has declared that the Constitution is irrelevant, in my humble opinion. Your thoughts?
Well, as most everyone was, I was shocked as you-know-what about Justice Roberts' decision. It's come out that he was originally going to vote against upholding Obamacare. Justice Scalia had written the majority decision. Justice Thomas had written a concurring decision. And Justice Ginsburg had written the dissenting opinion. And at the very last moment, for unspecified reasons, Chief Justice Roberts switched and found this bizarre reason to uphold the bill as a tax. Now, everybody has their own point of view about why this is bad. My point of view is that it has been part of the Supreme Court history that in interpreting legislation, the Supreme Court looks at legislative intent. That's just basic con law 101. And in this case, Congress had instead, the Obama administration had said, everybody had said on both sides of the litigation, that this was not a tax. It was an individual mandate. There was a penalty involved, but it was not a tax. Mr. Obama went to some lengths to belittle George Stephanopoulos on national TV a couple of years ago when Stephanopoulos raised the issue that it was a tax during these high court proceedings. The Obama administration argued on 2 of the 3 days that it was not a tax, and on one day that it was a tax, which caused a few interesting comments from, I think it was Justice Scalia, about along the lines of how stupid you think we are, that you think we can't remember what you said yesterday. But basically, everyone agreed this was not a tax, and now the Democrats are saying it's not a tax. Senator Harry Reid is apparently taking a position it's not a tax. The Obama campaign is taking a position that it's not a tax. Nobody wants to claim that it's a tax, but the Obama administration wants to claim victory on Obamacare to help their campaign.
Now, that's the next question. I know that you're not a political expert, if you will, but many think that Chief Justice Roberts is smarter than maybe I think he is, and that he was, giving you don't sweat much for a fat person kind of an opinion, that by labeling it a tax, he put on Obama something that will be an albatross during this election cycle. Your thoughts?
Well, although I have been involved in politics since Goldwater, I'm not here on the show on behalf of any political organization that I might be involved with. I'm here on behalf of a nonprofit, but as an individual, I can comment that I think that, I will tell you right out that prior to this ruling, I was telling everyone who wanted to listen that I thought Mr. Obama was a shoo-in for election. I thought that due to the incompetency of the Romney campaign and due to the incompetency of the Republican leadership, both in and out of Congress, that Obama would kick his butt. Now, I'm starting to have some doubts because what I'm hearing, and I haven't seen this myself, what I'm hearing, that there's a lot of anger out there, that a lot of people that were involved in the Tea Party movement who were, helped change the election in 2010 are, excuse my language, mad as hell, and they're not going to take it anymore, and that they're going to come in and try to do something about it. Now, the problem, of course, is that there are Republicans who supported Obamacare. In reality, I mean, they may say they don't now, but Obamacare is based on Romney care, and there's a number of recordings of Romney saying how wonderful the individual mandate was. And I was interviewed recently, and the interviewer was saying, well, but this was a Republican idea, this individual mandate. And I said, I don't care if it's a Republican idea or a Democrat idea. It's still a bad idea. It's an unconstitutional idea. It doesn't matter who came up with it. Basically, the Republican, we've got Mr. Romney, former Governor Romney, who's a big government Republican, backed by Boehner, a big government Republican, and McConnell, a big government Republican. And we've got Obama, who's a more big government politician. So it's big government normal and big government light, or something like that, or big government light and big government on steroids. So there's not much of a choice for the American people. But if Romney can be trusted, and I'm not sure that he can be, but if Romney can be trusted to fulfill his claim that he's going to take action to basically castrate Obamacare on his first day in office, then, and if the people believe him, then he may ride this issue to victory.
I think that you're making a good point. We're getting some feedback from somebody's mic, but let me turn to you, Chief. Your thoughts on whether we agree or disagree with Roberts' decision. Did he hand Obama a punch bowl with human waste in it?
I certainly hope so. But in the first case, Obama doesn't care legislation passed without any Republican votes. That's the first issue. Second issue we talked about Romney, and it takes a big man to admit they've made a mistake. And I believe that Romney could gain a lot of credibility if he would just say, you know what, Romney Care looked great on paper. We thought it would work. We gave it a try, and it didn't work. And I've learned from that and learned how to not do that again. I think that would give him a lot of credibility with a lot of people, and also show he's a big man. But in the case of our Chief Justice Benedict Arnold, regardless of the reason for what he did, his job is to rule on the constitutionality of issues that come before the court, and not to rule on political issues or this or that or what's going to happen or anything else. Merely to rule whether something is constitutional or not. And anybody like even me who's not an attorney can tell you that law is not constitutional.
And based on intent, which is just what Gary said. Brent?
And by the way, one of the things that Roberts said in his ruling was that because it is a tax, which he decided, because it is a tax, the Congress has absolute power to tax. That's not true. Congress does not have the absolute power to tax. It is specifically prohibited from direct taxation, that is, tax on life, on liberty, or on property. It may only tax indirectly according to the Constitution. So even the idea that they have the absolute power to tax is wrong. Gary, hi there. You were on my show some time back, and it was a pleasure having you then, and it's a pleasure being with you now. I want to ask you what I asked our previous guest in the last segment. Associate Professor of Law at the University of Missouri, Joshua Hawley, used to be a law clerk for Chief Justice John Roberts. He published a commentary suggesting that Roberts did this to avoid a constitutional confrontation with the executive branch, between the judicial and executive branches, and that he instead provided an avenue for popular pressure to repeal the Obamacare on the premise that as a tax it would be easier to repeal than it otherwise would be. And so he basically put it back in the hands of the people and their elected representatives. Considering he was a law clerk for Roberts, how much credence would you give to such an opinion?
A lot more personal insight in dealing with the Chief Justice than I do. I've never even met the man, and although I've been involved as counsel in several cases that have gone up to the United States Supreme Court, I've never personally argued for the Supreme Court, even though I'm admitted there. But, you know, if that's what he thinks, he may have a good basis for it. But if that's what he thinks, and if that's what the Chief Justice did, then Chief Justice is not doing his duty. Chief Justice's role is to rule on constitutionality of things, not find a way to push it off onto some other branch of government to decide. You know, I've talked to people in Massachusetts. In their constitution, apparently, the Massachusetts Supreme Court does not have the power to declare laws unconstitutional. They, in effect, give an advisory opinion. I'm not saying this is true. This is what I've been told, and that's part of the criticism of former Governor Romney on the same-sex marriage issue, is that he basically took an advisory opinion and then turned it into de facto into law by executive decree. If that's the case, then with all due respect to Chief Justice Roberts, who I've admired a great deal over the years, then he was wrong. I mean, what they've in fact have done is they've rewritten statute, which is strictly prohibited. Courts can't rewrite statutes. They've rewritten the statute and basically said it's not a mandate, it's a tax. And so, you know, what are they going to do? They're going to go into every place where it says mandate and scratch it out and interlineate tax on there? I don't know, but that's essentially what he's done. And he doesn't really have the power to do that. And I have to say, I was very surprised that Sotomayor and Breyer went along with this, because Sotomayor has been showing some signs of actually voting to uphold the Constitution rather than following the liberal agenda. Ginsburg and Kagan, with all due respect, are lost causes. They're just going to follow whatever their liberal agenda, and to hell with the Constitution, excuse my language. But I had some hopes that Breyer and Sotomayor might have shown some sense. But this is ridiculous. This idea which is being promoted that Roberts did this in order to avoid attacks on the court, damaging the court in the public's mind, a la the 2000 election battle before the U.S. Supreme Court. First of all, that's the wrong basis to make a decision. Secondly, it's boomerang, because the polls are now showing that people think even less of the Supreme Court after this decision. But if he did that to preserve his legacy, or to try to shift it to another playing field, or as some people have suggested, he did it to make it easier for the Republicans to overturn it, because they only need 51 votes and instead of 60 to avoid a filibuster. You know, that's really not his place. His place is to review it for constitutionality. And the way he stretched this all out of shape is just bizarre to me. But remember, this past week he also joined with the left on the Arizona immigration law decision too. So maybe he's switched position, has decided big government is the way to go, and the Constitution be damned. I don't know.
Let me ask you to then go to that immigration decision and talk about that they allowed, quote unquote, temporarily officers to check on people's immigration status, but once they find it out, there's not a doggone thing they can do about it. Your thoughts?
Well, the Obama administration is running its campaign, its political campaign, which is being run out of Air Force One, has just come out, and the White House, which is, by the way, a violation of federal law, but that's another issue. They're running their campaign based upon class warfare and race warfare. They basically want to turn the poor against the rich, the middle class against the rich, and the poor against the middle class, and play them all against each other. And they want to turn Hispanics and blacks against whites. So they're going to do and they want to promote massive voter fraud so that they can win election. I mean, there's some question in my mind whether Mr. Obama won the election in 2008 on the basis of voter fraud. We did some investigations, and there was massive voter fraud in Illinois alone. I mean, when people standardly only turn out about 27 to 50% of the people who ever vote in an election, and precincts in Illinois have 120% turnout, you kind of wonder, how that happens. But basically, I think that whole decision was the lawsuit was brought forth for political reasons, not for constitutional reasons, and I think the decision was wrong. I think that states have the right, indeed the obligation, to protect their citizenry within the states, especially if the federal government's not going to. You know, if the federal government says it's okay for Mexicans to come across the Mexico-American border and kill people, does that mean that if and makes that our immigration policy, does that mean Arizona state troopers and National Guard can't shoot it out with them? I mean, I don't know. Under the logic of that decision, it would seem so.
Well, I believe that disingenuity is the nicest thing you could say about Barack Obama's entire political career in life and certainly his campaign. But we do have some thoughts there, Chief.
Well, the first thought I have is I heard the comment earlier that they can't do this. It's unlawful. And it seems like we're in a position where they're doing it, even though it is unlawful. And it seems to me that even though our founding fathers put in language that says these things are not to be done, there's not much of a response or a mechanism to fix it if it is being done. So when the top people, the president and the attorney general, are breaking the law, how do you really bring them to task? It's very difficult.
Brent?
Well, the only thing you can... Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Gary. Go ahead.
The only thing you can really do is impeach them. But the Republicans are a bunch of gutless wonders. I mean, you know, we can all argue whether Bill Clinton was a good president and a terrible man or vice versa. But the Republicans, they got show gun shy after what he did, or what happened in that impeachment. They don't want to do it anymore. And, you know, I'm not saying we should willy-nilly have impeachment. I'm not saying that at all. But I think, for instance, Attorney General Holder needs to be removed from office because of his complicity in the death of apparently multiple individuals. You know, and he just doesn't care. He's going to lie, cheat, and steal, do whatever he can. I mean, this is not a man. This is something that Obama has put up. He was an official in the Clinton administration. This guy has no guts. He's just hiding behind executive privilege because he's not willing to take the heat for what he did. I mean, but that's consistent with this whole administration. They do these bad things, and I could start recounting things that you probably haven't even talked about on this show, and they don't want to take any. They don't want to take any of the responsibility for it. They want to blame everybody else and just say, oh, not our problem, somebody else's problem. It's Arizona's problem. It's Alabama's problem. It's Georgia's problem. It's North Carolina's problem. Don't bother us with this. We're causing all the problems, but you can't fix it because we're the imperial we, the elitists up in the federal government who know better than all of us and think we're all a bunch of dumb idiots, and that, you know, only they can decide, you know, what we can say and do and hear on the internet and everywhere else.
Well, that's because they believe that by doing those things, they will get votes from the Hispanic community and from the black community. The funny thing is, what they're doing to help the Hispanic community is devastating the black community, but I guess an IQ is not required for those who vote for Obama. Brent?
Well, it's a sad thing because...
Can I please say a word on this?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is something that goes right to my heart.
Go ahead, Brent.
Some 236 years and 1 day ago, John Adams stood in front of the Third Continental Congress and he said, "Live or die, survive or perish, I give my hand and my heart to this vote on the Declaration of Independence." He said, we may die ignominiously and slaves, hanging, we may be hanged, but what we do here today will live on beyond us. It is not true that we only have impeachment as an option. What is true is we have armed revolution as a final option. If the federal government says the Mexicans can come in and kill people, then Arizona says, screw you, we're going to take care of our people and we're going to fight the federal imperialists. We're going to fight the Obama dictatorship. You know, I get so tired of hearing the only option we have when the Supreme Court and the president disobey the law, well, the only option is to go political. No! There is a final option. It may not be desirable, but it is necessary. From time to time, the tree of liberty must be watered with the blood of patriots and tyrants. It is its natural manure. I think that it is time for a revolution.
All right, Gary?
I'm sorry, I'm not going to go there. I believe that the Obama administration is probably the most lawless administration we've ever seen. I do agree that the Founding Fathers, that I believe one of the reasons for the Second Amendment was to allow us to defend ourselves against government. I believe that the ultimate right is the right of revolution. I agree, and that's, I believe, from the writings of the Founding Fathers. I think that was Thomas Jefferson said that, but I don't hold me to that because I could be wrong. But I believe that at this point in time, there are still political solutions that need to be done. The problem is that we've got a bunch of gutless people on Capitol Hill, by the name of John Boehner and Mitch McConnell. They don't want really to undo all these unconstitutional things that Obama has done, and the reason why is they want to have all the power that he's amassing in an imperial presidency. They just want to be the ones to control it, and that's a sad thing. I was at a meeting with Congressman Buck McKeon, who styles himself as this small government conservative Republican. He's a congressman from California. And this was in the 90s, just like 15 years ago. And I remember him saying that big government is good as long as the Republicans control it. And I think former State Senator Ray Haynes, who used to head ALEC, was there, and former State Senator Pete Knight, who was one of the big protectors of traditional marriage in California until he died. I mean, we about went through the roof when he said that, because big government is bad no matter who controls it. That's the way a lot of these people think. They're just trying to look for more and more ways to gain control. And then they let the Democrats do all this stuff. They take the heat. And then when the Republicans take over, they just let it all go on. And so, the Tea Party, even though it's not a political party, seems to be our only hope for turning this stuff around.
Well, I agree with you, and I also agree with Brent. And I think there's an in-between place, and that is I've raised children, thank you, God, and spanked them rarely. I mean, you could count on one hand the number of spankings all of my children got. But they knew that arrow was in the quiver. They knew that option was on the table. And I think Brent brings up not only a salient, but an incredibly important point. If government, Republican, Democrat, believes that the American people, no matter what they do, will do nothing other than moan and cry and vote for somebody else the next election, will not change this trajectory. Is that close, Brent?
Exactly. Yes, that is precisely right. When government fears the people, we have liberty. When the people fear the government, we have tyranny.
I'll agree with that statement.
All right, Chief?
Well, the first thing is Stan, I'm sure, didn't have to spank his kids, because when Stan Solomon speaks, people listen, including the kids. But I believe the conversation tonight is really right on every aspect. But the thing that's missing, if we would need to have some type of an armed response by the citizens, is that we've had two revolutionary uprisings in this country in the past, the Revolutionary War and the Civil War. But in both cases, we had a component that's missing today, and that is military leadership to lead that revolution. Without that, I believe it would fail quickly. So all of you Second Amendment lovers like me need to think about that and get some kind of organization and get that well-trained militia that was talked about in the Second Amendment going, so we're ready for this if it does need to be done.
Well, God willing...
Just a comment, Chief Steve. There are reports, very credible reports, that there are members of the military as high up as the Joint Chiefs of Staff who have indicated that if the American people showed a real willingness to rise up and stage a revolution, they would step forward to coordinate and organize it. So there are suggestions and indications, and as I say, very credible ones, that there are people who would take on those roles if and when the time comes.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons we're seeing the introduction of perversion and stupidity into our military, so they can replace the quality people that are there with the valueless lowlifes that populate the homosexual community. Now, that's just a personal opinion. Gary, would you like to comment on? If you're smart, you won't.
Well, let's look at the example of Egypt. What's gone on over the past 20 years is the military in Egypt, whether you like them or dislike them, was a force for stability in the country. They made sure that extremists on both ends were kept out of control. Whether you agree with what they did or not, they were a force for stability. But what has happened is that the Islamicists have been working very hard to get their people quietly up the ranks of the officers. And so, for instance, I think it was last year, a whole group of the the main military leaders, I'm talking about the top generals, admirals, etc., they were all forced out of the military. They were forced to resign by the civilian government. And now we have a situation where a lot of the majors and colonels and etc. that are coming up, they're Muslim extremists. So they're quietly getting ready for the day when the Egyptian military will become a force for Islamic extremism in Egypt instead of the steadying force. That may be somewhat apropos to what we're seeing in the military. Every time someone doesn't toe the Obama line, they're kicked out, they're removed, they're forced to resign, whatever. And that's pretty scary. But, you know, I got to tell you, the whole idea of, what was it, 7 Days in May, the movie, you know, this whole idea of military coup, you know, and armed revolution scares the crap out of me. It really does.
And it should.
And I'm not meaning to say that it might not come a day when it's necessary. I'm just telling you, the whole idea scares the crap out of me because, I mean, talk about blood in the streets. Most of the people that would be involved in that would have absolutely no idea what they're doing because they have no military training or no military background. It'd just be a lot of people killed senselessly.
All right.
And
Gary,
remember what,
folks, we're out of time. Unfortunately, we'll have you back, Gary. Thank you so much. USJusticeFoundation.net.
USJF.net.
USJF.net. Thank you, Gary Kreep. We'll be right back with Dr. Alan Keyes. I like to eat. You like to eat? We all do. And usually we run to the grocery store, we run to the convenience store, or we have something in the fridge. But power's been out in parts of this country in the last few weeks. We don't know what's going to come down the pike economically. Smart people are putting in food. Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves is a line of foods that you can put away that will last for a very long time. You know, they say eat what you store and store what you eat. This is great tasting stuff, healthy for you, a full line. You go to our website, cpnlive.com, and click on the button for Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves and see all the different things we have. This is good tasting food. It's reasonably priced. It will last. And it's worth its weight in gold if a problem arises. I know you don't think there's going to be anything that goes wrong. Actually, you do. This is smart. This is smart insurance. This is smart preparation. This is smart thinking. You have kids, you have a spouse, you have parents, you have dependents, you have an appetite. All those things can be addressed by a frugal but smart investment in Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves. Try them out. You will be tickled to death with the taste of them. You know what? In many cases, people start to eat this and they think, heck, this tastes better and costs less than what you're going to the grocery store to buy. cpnlive.com. Check it out. Hey, my name is Stan Solomon, and you know if I have something to say, I'll say it. And I'll only tell you the truth because I'm a Republican, not a Democrat. Democrats always lie. Republicans only lie half the time. I don't lie at all. This is the Fuel Mule. It's an extraordinary product that was developed by a friend of mine, an engineer, and it increases the fuel mileage on your vehicle. If you have a combustion engine, this will increase your mileage by 10 to 20%. It bolts around your fuel line. You can install it yourself or have your mechanic do it. It is an extraordinary item and it flat works. I've been using it for more than 10 years. It's increased my mileage on every vehicle I put it on, and by the way, it will last forever. You can get rid of your vehicle, just take it off and put on the next one. Go to cpnlive.com. You'll have more information there. You can order it right there. We absolutely guarantee you'll be satisfied. The Fuel Mule. It's a way to kick down your cost of fuel and kick up your mileage. Don't you love the name? I thought of it. The Fuel Mule. Let me ask you a question. Do you like being sick? I have in my hand an incredible product. It's called TR10 Supercolloidal Silver. TR10 stands for a trace to the negative 10th power. The particles in this silver product are 6 to 8 angstroms, 6 to 8 10 billionths of a meter. Now listen to me. Silver has been the magic bullet for all of human existence. The Egyptians used silver instruments. We use silverware. They put silver in your teeth because nothing can grow on silver. Silver will kill anything but liberalism. I'm working on that. This product, you go to cpnlive.com, buy 1 quart of this product. It will last you for a very long time. Anytime you feel like you've been exposed to something bad, take some of this product, spray it in your mouth, or take a little bit and gargle it, swallow it. It will kill any pathogen. The average antibiotic kills 10 to 20 different pathogens. This product will kill 700 plus. Do yourself a favor, do your family a favor, do your doctor a favor. He's tired of seeing you. Get Super Colloidal Silver. Go to cpnlive.com, order the product. It's $29.95 plus shipping. I think it's $39.95 delivered any place in America right to your door. It's worth 10 times that. Check it out. If you're not 100% happy, just return it and we'll give you your money back.